Hey there, Lizzy with you today. I've got a layout that I'm not using any layering in. So it's basically paper for cardstock, and then I've used a black marker for the way that I make my photos and other elements on the page stand out. So as usual, first of all, I'm cutting down my photos, another multi-page layout, because that's what I'm trying to use to get my photos scrapped. This time I've gone for some really old pattern paper and some very plain paper, but I figured because it was a beachy layout, it reminded me of the sand on the beach. And as you can see from my little typed message there, I do fussy it up with some ink splats. For my black marking around everything, I've used a Copic marker. This one's actually on its way out. It's not as black as it normally is, so sometimes I've gone around the edges twice. I've cut a lot of that out, of course, so that I don't put you through all that watching. But it works really well to frame your photos if you don't have a lot of pattern papers or you just fancy a really flat page, because sometimes we need flat pages in our albums as well as the ones that are quite thick and lumpy. Here we are, going around the edge of the page with my marker. I find using the wedge edge, if that makes sense, and half doing it on some old paper works a treat. I was given this tag and I thought it was a good place to put my journaling on. And then on the photos themselves, I actually wrote the dates, because they are all separate dates. They are all in 2016, but the only thing that ties these photos together is the fact that they're beach photos with the same boy, my same grandchild, and the fact that they're at where we live at Woy Woy. So I'm sorry about all the shadows in this one. It was done late in the afternoon, and I'm still trying to work out where the best position for my camera is when I'm filming. Yes, it's an interesting exercise, but we'll get there. Once again, I'm going through my little collection of goodies. That little collection is getting less and less the more layouts I do. I haven't added to it lately. I've just been trying to get through them. I fiddled and faffed around with lots of tabs on this one. Once again, I've cut a lot of it out so that you don't have to see me placing things here, there and everywhere. But in the end, it comes together okay. I tend to use my date stamp a fair bit in this one, and also the stapler came out. That flare I'd pulled out for another layout and never used, forgot about it, and it sort of worked with the beachy, coloury scheme going on here. Because the background is quite plain with just that pop of colour behind it, I've tended to use elements that have a pop of colour too, and pulled those from the photos. So the orange and the yellow tend to be pulled from the photos. And I find that works really well if you're looking for a bit of a colour scheme. Some very old alphas. This should be called the very old layout, I think, because that flare is so old it's got rust spots on it, and the alphas haven't got stickiness behind them anymore. But I tend to glue my alphas on anyway, because even the new ones, I don't find they stick terribly well. Don't know how old that arrow is, and once more I'm sticking that on even though it is chipboard. And I just thought that because most of the other elements have got the black outline, this arrow needed it as well. It tied it in much better. Tied it into the page much better, I should say. And same with the tag. I've put, eventually, I put a little bit of yellow twine at the top of the tag to tie it in. The flare got put on all the photos in every possible spot imaginable, and finally I discovered the perfect place for it, on the tag. Who knew? There we are with a little bit of yellow twine. And I'm trying to work out how to put the date on that photo. I tried to put a tab on the edge, but it didn't work. It just didn't look right. So in the end I stamped right on the photo with Stays On ink, because that's the best ink for stamping on photo paper. And I'm not very good at using tabs or tags, so I was quite pleased that I was able to do that with this page. As you can see, I've written my dates down. I just flick that in and out, so I don't get them wrong this time, and yay, didn't get one date wrong when I stamped, which was a relief. Phew. What I'm doing here is just putting a little bit of black along the one edge that joins the edge of the photo, so it looks like it's got the black outline on it along with the photo. Otherwise it just stands out and it doesn't look quite right. I come back to that tab at the top. I really like that. Yes, here we go. These are some words that I've printed out on sticky sheets on my computer, and they're quite handy. Sort of mini words, little words, but they're ones that I use. So it's good sometimes to do them yourself because you know the sort of words you use. Last week I was in the op shop and I found these tiny weeny labels. They're Avery labels, but they were 50 cents. So I bought them, typed on them, and then realised the reason they were in the op shop is because they've got no sticky on the back of them anymore, but that's okay. And I've backed it off with Easter egg paper, but actually you don't notice it in the end because by the time I've added a border around the edge, stapled, added another word sticker, it sort of blends right into the background, and that suits me fine. You can actually see it a little bit through the tag, but not a lot. I'm sorry about the shadow here too. I've just doodled a few arrows or chevrons, I suppose, and I've done that at the top of my title. I do that later on as well, just to tie it in nicely. Those little stickery tag things I've had for ages, I was really pleased to use one up behind there. Like I say, another pop of the colour, of the orangey colour that I've pulled from the photos. And a simple story sticker which I just got yesterday in the mail. So I had to use one of those because it's always nice to use brand new stash, isn't it? Doodling around the edge. And for this one I pulled out a whole lot of enamel dots in oranges and yellows. So after I've doodled around the so in the title, so joyful, I start to adhere my enamel dots. And I'm not going to show you this, but I don't actually worry about their placement. I just go plonk, plonk, plonk. But I didn't want you to have to plonk, plonk, plonk through the whole lot. So we're just plonking them around, and after I put these ones on, I find some little hearts, and there's a couple of spots where I mentioned love, or there is a heart, so they tied in nicely. And finally I add some tiny weeny little black sort of enamel-y, dotty things, but not quite enamel-y dots. That's sort of in place of splattering some black splats or white splats around. I just thought that they sort of finished the page off nicely, really. And then lastly, I thought it just needed something else, so I scribbled around the edge, love this boy. Still working out this music and how it works. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it and it's given you some ideas for layer-free scrapping or fast scrapping or just flat scrapping, whatever you like to call it. Anyway, cheers and happy scrapping. Bye.